Now, a Hutch's weather update with Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson, brought to you by Robert Gibb and Sons.
Alrighty then, meteorologist Hutch Johnson joining you. Thank you for joining me right here. Remember, you are the biggest part of Hutch's weather interactivity. Now, as we talked a little earlier, if you missed the show, here's what Hutch has promised for you tonight. It's a packed show and it's full of goodness. Number one, you get your local forecast. Meh, looks pretty good, right? So what's the big thing? The big thing is this thing everybody's been watching for with their glasses. They're getting to watch this big eclipse. It's huge. Now here, the total eclipse is not going to be visible, but I've heard from you, and you're like, we want to travel. Where should we go so we can stage ourselves to get where we may have a better chance at seeing this eclipse as far as cloud cover goes? So it's still far out. As you know, Hutch's forecast tomorrow can be questionable some days, right? I'm just being honest here. But as we look out 7 days, what's it look like for next Monday with that eclipse? We're going to talk about that. First, a word from my sponsors. Thanks so very, very much to the fine folks at Robert Gibb and Sons. And they want to remind you through April, you can go ahead and upgrade your heating and air conditioning system to a brand new Bryant system. And if you do that, they're going to throw in that water heater for free. Give my friends at Robert Gibb and Sons, a premier Bryant dealer, a call. They'll get the job done and get it done right. Make sure you log in. Let me know down in the comments below where you're watching from if you have any questions. But right now, I'm going to get started with the fun stuff. Just really the meat and potatoes of the forecast. Is there gravy with those potatoes? I don't know. We'll check in on that in a moment. Right now, overnight tonight, temperatures will be generally in those 20s to around 30 degrees here in the valley. And it's got a little brisk feel to it with that north wind that really picked up in Fargo late. After we hit a high in the 50-degree range, well, we've just made it feel cool out again. North winds, 15 to 25 miles per hour, a few gusts higher than that by morning. Most of us will be in that 25 to 30 degree range. The coolest weather, by the way, in central parts of North Dakota. And here's a look at your afternoon. The heat is on, they say. The wind will be decreasing from west to east. Northerly winds early in the day, 30 miles per hour. The winds all day will be strongest in Minnesota. The trees usually slow things down just a little bit, but I will say you're going to be closer to the storm system that will be impacting the Great Lakes and the Central Plains and the East Coast. We'll see wind decreasing 15 miles per hour. Look at the temperatures out to the west. The west is where it's at. Now, they're planting oranges, lemons, and lime trees. You name it. It's looking like 70 degrees near places like Glendive, Montana, Sydney, Montana, all the way up by Freud. If you know where Freud is, it's way up there, eh? Okay, 67 degrees in northeast Montana. How about Minot? Why not? Head over there. It's 54 degrees for your afternoon temperature. Bismarck. Yeah. Easy for me to say, I know. I get excited. 50 degrees. And we're not going to be far from that again in Fargo and in Grand Forks. So mild temperatures here in the valley, beautiful temperatures elsewhere. Decreasing clouds. How about Minnesota? A little more north wind. Temperatures suffering just a little bit, particularly from the Red Lakes area all the way up into Lake of the Woods, where we'll be in the lower 40s. But that's still pretty good this time of the year. MJ, good to have you on. Watching from Grand Rapids, where temperatures will be in the low to mid 40s for your afternoon. Likewise for you out near Walker, and for you in Wadena, Staples area, close to 50 degrees still, and 45 to 50 in Lakes Country. That includes Otter Tail, Grant, and Douglas counties as well. Mike says, blowing dirt. That's not very fun. You know what? We've got a lot of exposed dirt out there. We've got a lot of exposed dry vegetation from the fall. And with the wind and the warmer weather and the drier weather, the fire danger is likely to increase. So let's all keep that in mind. Leora, good to see you on board once again. And Julia, watching from Jacksonville, Florida tonight. I bet you don't have to worry about a cold north wind that's brisk, although the brisk is a relative term, right, in Florida. Now, a quick look at our forecast before we get with the meat and potatoes, and we get that done so we can talk a little bit about the dessert that's on the table that Hutch has prepared for all of us. That's a look, for those interested, at the forecast for clouds for the big eclipse. Temperatures the next couple of days slowly rising through the 50s. It looks thawing on Thursday. In fact, many of us will say, hello, spring, because the wind won't be as strong on Thursday. It might be Hutch's pick day. of the forecast period, because you don't have to worry about the follicular concerns that you do. But then the rest of the week, Friday, Saturday, even into Sunday, I'm expecting you to really benefit from the use of Hutch's favorite brand of hairspray, North Dakota Super Duper Hold. Definitely highly recommended in the winds we're going to be experiencing here. So have a can, get it today. I may or may not own stock in that company. Temperatures will be rising into the 60s for Saturday. Peak fire danger. Then after that, clouds increase mainly along the South Dakota border with just a hiccup in the forecast. As that system works through, just sprinkles. It doesn't look like heavy rain. It does not look like it will help with the drought at all. Just some showers of rain possible the way it looks right now. We'll see temperatures drop off just behind that, but then maybe another rebound making its way in. Indeed, Sarah saying dry vegetation along the river in Fargo, down trees. Yeah, let's just be very, very careful with any burning whatsoever. And you'll likely hear from the National Weather Service working in tandem with our fire agencies to make sure we're all doing things safely. 80 degrees reported here in Arizona tomorrow, Lane says. Ha ha! Okay, going down south for the eclipse next week. I've had a few of you ask for Hutch's twist on this, and I'm going to give it to you because you want to know whether your trip is going to be worth it, or if you're going to go, where is the best chance at seeing some clear skies? And we're not going to look at one model here. Nuh-uh. Hutch doesn't do that, because I know that not one model can be relied on every time to get the forecast right. I'm going to show you three, and then after we look at the three, I'll tell you where the best chance is going to be based on three models, not just one. All right, Sarah says, stop teasing us. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm guilty. All right, here we go. Here's a map. Just a reminder, my friends at NASA have all this, sky stuff all figured out. We're looking at the hours in totality here, and we're talking about the beginning Central Standard Time of the total eclipse on the 8th, on Monday, to be around that midday hour down in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas, not the Red River Valley of North Dakota. So we won't see it in totality, but these are the areas you can go to see it in totality. I mean, many have been talking about that. As we go from midday to the early afternoon, the totality will slide its way up. By around 2 o'clock, it'll be making its way through the Boot Heel of Missouri. Okay. And if you don't want to go to the Boot Heel of Missouri, you can maybe head to the East Coast, where the Great Lakes and maybe up towards Maine and upstate New York will have a chance at seeing it. That's the path of the total solar eclipse. What about the forecast? Let's start with Hutch's go-to model for far out forecasts beyond 3 and 4 days. I want to show you the European model. We have a couple of things that we're watching weather-wise. And you know that when we have an L on a weather map, everybody, an L is a storm. It's a low pressure center. It's a mid-latitude cyclone or storm. Now, that's the storm that's causing all the havoc in the weather today, from snow in Wisconsin, from tornadoes from places like Illinois, all the way down into the Gulf Coast states, and now moving up through the Ohio River Valley as well. That storm will work its way out. Let's get to the 8th. Here we go. Boom. Here's Monday the 8th, and Leo the lion, the cat, says this does not look perfect. No, because look, we've got another L as we go through the 8th, working its way through the nation's midsection. You see all that rain? Well, rain comes from what? Clouds, that's right. So clouds moving right through this area. We have some concerns here, but the timestamp you're looking at is in the morning. Now, here's noon. So those clouds will be drifting through the area, and the same area where the total eclipse will be visible. So let's look at a product here on this European model. They don't have clouds on this, but I want to show you something that we can look up to estimate where the clouds are. And I'm looking at the moisture in the mid-levels of the atmosphere where we make clouds. And the moisture, is the air humid or is it dry? Colors that are blue and green means wet air, where we could have some cloud potential. And the brown air areas are usually very, very dry, and the chances of clouds go way down. Let's get to the 8th. Here we go, and action. This is the morning of the 8th. Look at the dry air moving into West Texas and making its way into the Central Plains. Look at the northeastern United States as we go through the day. So it does look like Texas will have an increasing chance at some clearing going on, and the northeast part of the United States will have brief clearing, but as this low spirals through, bringing moist air from the Gulf of Mexico in, we will have some cloud-making moisture available as we look through places like Ohio and West Virginia. So this is the European model on the 8th. Clouds in the green areas, drier air elsewhere. These other models I show you, a little bit easier to look at. Here is model number 2, the American model, but let's not forget one of the better models coming up is from the Canadians, And we're going to take a look at what the Canadian model says here in just one moment. But right now, this is a cloud product. This is where the model calculates where it thinks the clouds might be made. Folks, I've seen these be way off, way overdone, way underdone. So we can't rely 100% on this, but we do know there will be a low pressure center tracking through the nation. And as that does so, we could have a chance of clouds. Let's get to the 8th. You see the date on the top of the model here. Let me see if I can put that date back up there for you. And where did it go? Okay, well, the date here is let's get to the 8th. Okay, so you can even see the track of the eclipse on this. Kind of cool. This is mid-morning. Okay, so before the eclipse starts in totality. As we approach noon, here it is. This is the midday hour in Texas. Look what this model says. The American model says very cloudy in Texas. Okay, maybe a hole in the Boot Hill of Missouri. But then let's head towards 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock when the Boot Hill of Missouri is expected to have the totality. Looks like there could be some clouds mingling into the picture there as well. Look at the northeast. Maine looks, well, a little better. And as we go on through time, this is the late afternoon and early evening time frame. So there's going to be a fair amount of cloud cover on this. We got one more model, and then I'll give you my synopsis of the 3 models we've looked at. And again, this is still pretty far out, but you're going to see the path of totality show up here as we approach the 8th. Here's the 8th, Texas, clearing. 2 out of 3 models at noon, at midday, show clearing in Texas. Yeehaw! And Texas is a big state, mind you, but we do know that wind from the northwest behind the system should bring drier air in. Going into the Boot Hill of Missouri, look what it has at midday. Does it stay that way? Yes. Well, the Canadians here seem to think that anywhere in the central to southern plains has a better chance. And look at Maine. Look at northern Vermont and New Hampshire and upstate New York. This is noon. And this is as we approach 2 and 3 o'clock when it's supposed to be in totality there. The clouds make their way to the northeast. So I got to see if anybody has questions. And let's go ahead and top this off with a little finalized discussion of what we know and what the models showed us. Number 1. Path of totality. It looks like we'll have a low pressure system or storm system impacting portions of the central plains. The clouds that associate with these storms look like commas. If we were to draw a big comma on this map, kind of like you saw there. Behind it, with the dry air moving in, behind the cold front, we could have a chance at seeing it clear out. And right now, West Texas might be your best bet, the way it looks right now, to see it in the midday into the very early afternoon hours. That looks like a decent chance. A couple of the models said there'd still be some lingering clouds around the Boot Hill of Missouri. So if you're planning on going to places like Arkansas here in northwest Arkansas and toward the Boot Hill of Missouri, there may be a few clouds. But at least one model, the Canadian model, said it should be even clearing out of there with the clouds pushing rapidly to the northeast. The area with possibly the best chance at seeing some cloudy skies throughout the entirety of the day may indeed be right here in the let's say the Ohio River Valley. As that low pressure system forms, there's warm front type of clouds just more socked in with gray skies and cloudy weather here in the Ohio River Valley, and maybe a break in the upstate New York area briefly, but those clouds will be on the increase as totality makes its way through. If you're interested, I can keep you updated on this as we go a little bit closer. The models should have a little bit better grasp, but 3 models show a significant event making its way through the Central Plains with some impacts across this path for cloud cover. Temperatures tonight looking on the chilly side as we look. We have 38 degrees right now out at Hector International Airport. Here's a look at the rest of your radar data at this hour. 36 degrees Detroit Lakes, Fergus Falls 37. Winds still ripping at about 20 miles per hour with a few gusts higher than that out of the north. So it has a cool and crisp feel to it. Minot and that area is still in the 43 degree range, but it is definitely a little bit cooler feeling with that north wind blowing through the trees of Minnesota, slowing the winds down. Bemidji, 34 degrees. 10 miles per hour, and thanks to your reports. All right, thank you all very, very much. Jim, I hope you have a very enjoyable trip seeing the total eclipse. I know that it's, for some of us, it's a once-in-a-lifetime type of event because not only do we have not a chance to see these every couple of years, but not always do we have the ability to just drop everything we're doing and go out and seeing it. So if you do get a chance, Jim, take a picture and share it with us here on Hutch's Weather right here in our broadcast. If you ever get a chance, I would welcome that. Thank you so very much. Hope you all have a wonderful evening. Remember, tomorrow is Wednesday. It's the first Wednesday of the month. You're going to hear the sirens going off. Hutch told you it's test day. It's the first Monday of the month, and you're going to hear those sirens going off. And that is a normal test. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk again soon. Thanks so very much. Thanks for your support. Thanks for your stars. And thanks for sharing with a friend the good word that Hutch is here, still talking weather right here on Facebook and beyond. More exciting announcements coming up shortly.